everyone, I'm Yuri Malishenko, and I'm really surprised to see so many people joining the session. And I thank you for that. Thank you for the interest. The topic is visual thinking and how we could use that to simplify complex. And the theme of the day is reflection. And also, if you remember the word cloud from the morning, the inspiration seems to be the most popular word people are coming here for, so I'm really hoping to inspire you with this talk. The way I do that is I draw as I talk, and because of that it's slower, so bear with me. I'll just start telling more about myself. So I usually draw myself and I say, okay, that's me, I'm Yuri. And I'm a Ukrainian, so I come from Ukraine, and I have moved to Denmark 3 years ago, and I live in Copenhagen now, together with my family, my life partner, and our 2 kids, and I love them very much. Unfortunately, my wife couldn't join me here, so I went alone, but I have you. And then what I also say, that, okay, if you want to know why I'm so passionate about visual thinking, it starts very early in my life when I really loved to draw, but I never got any artistic education, so I'm an amateur drawer. But it doesn't prevent me from using that effectively. And let's say in the IT industry, I'm for 10 years working as a project manager, BA, business analyst, and approximately, so 10 years ago I joined the IT industry, and approximately 8 years ago I started working as an agile coach, which I am today as well. That's my daytime job. And I work for Danske Bank, so probably some of my colleagues are here, so I'm happy to have your support. And when I started doing more of an agile-related work, it turned out that you operate with vague terminology. People use the same words to mean different things. And drawing helped me very much to get the clarity in the conversations. And I used that a lot, but approximately 4 years ago, I started teaching other people to use visual thinking, and I thought it would not be possible, but it turns out that people get up to speed with visual thinking quite fast. It took me years, but people are very good at that. And I'm very passionate about it. It's not my major occupation, but I do invest a lot into researching the topic, teaching others people, but also this year I took courage to speak on the topic as well. So I hope to spread this idea further. And I personally believe visual thinking is an additional essential skill along with being able to read and talk. And when it comes to working on the digital products, it's involving talking to other people, it's involving working with different technologies that constantly evolve, and in that regards, visual thinking is a very powerful tool. So that's about me and why I'm talking on this topic. So I really hope you get inspired with the tool after I tell you more about it. And the way I tell the story about visual thinking, I draw a person suspiciously looking again very much like me. Yeah. And usually that person is depicted by me sitting at a table drawing something. And the story goes like this. We are operating in the area of ever-growing complexity, that guy from the cover page. So this is a complex guy, and this is a lot of different terminology evolving all the time. It's all around us, difficult to understand. And when you look at what kind of information we consume, predominantly it's the linear information that we hear in the conversations with other people, or we read, for example, from books, social media, digital devices. And what is the sequential information? If you look closer into that, It's a word by word by word by word. So we really need to spend a lot of time trying to make a sense out of what we hear or we read. But that's also the majority of information we're dealing with. And in order to understand how visual thinking works, we need to try and sneak into how our brain works. And nobody knows, but there are some theories. And I'm not here to argue about those because I am not a specialist in neuroscience. But I like one theory the most, and it's called the propositional theory. You could look it up later on if you're interested. Propositional theory. And that theory suggests that whenever we deal with information, our brain interprets that information, processes it, and creates some sort of graphs, propositions. And these graphs, they consist of some, you could say, nodes or concepts. And these concepts, they line up in those structures through relations. And if you look at that, basically it's a spatial information. You could draw it, and that theory suggests that we operate with these models almost as images. But we also know that people are much faster interpreting the visual information. When we see a picture, it takes us fractions of seconds to understand what we're seeing. But it takes much, much longer time to interpret the written or verbal information. And finally, what is visual thinking for me? It's whenever you deal with this sequential information, which we are bathing in, we try to draw these concepts and therefore helping our brain to build those models so we arrive to the proposition or something close to that that corresponds to the piece of information much faster because we could also see what we draw at the same time. And that is why, for example, sketchnoting is so popular today, because when you do the sketchnoting, you try to make sense out of what you hear, and it really helps tackle complexity. And again, not to argue about things, because it could be an argument, but for me, what are the three most important things that visual thinking suggests? Those three things are, it's much more effective to find out the essentials of the concept we're dealing with. So it's effective as hell. And whenever I'm in meetings, when people discuss what the business agility is or what is our process about, not being able to draw for me is the equivalent of not being able to operate in a conversation. And this is a true effectiveness in the world of complexity. Number two is that it helps me to memorize better, because whenever you draw something, or even if you just write it down in bullet points with your hand, the rate of memorization is much higher compared to just listening to that. It's a fact now, proven by some researchers as well. The third one might sound surprising for you, but it's very important for me. It's so much more fun working this way. And maybe for me, it's coming as a number one, really. That's the visual thinking as I understand it. You might find other definitions, but that's also fair because it's quite a young industry and people did not agree on terminology yet. Visual thinking is simple. And it can be simple if you don't believe so. And it's okay for you just to listen to this talk, but if you have anything to draw on now, and you have a pen, any kind of pen, I would encourage you to follow me along, and if you don't, it's also fine. It's up for your discretion. You decide how you want to take it. But I'm going to show you that anyone can draw by just following simple rules. And we're going to draw each of ourselves, our portraits. And it's going to be fun, I promise you that. I'll give you just a few seconds more to settle down. If you decided to follow me along, just get stuff ready. Again, something to draw on, and it can be a booklet, a program, and it can be any type of pen, doesn't matter. Okay, I take it as we are ready to go. Start with step number 1. Draw an oval like that. And that's step number 1. We draw the oval for the face. And it's going to be 8 steps. One of them is the only complex one, but the rest is quite straightforward. Number 2, and you don't need to draw this, you only follow the face. It's just for later documentation if you want to get these slides later on. So the eyes, how you draw eyes, you find the middle line, and then you put just 2 dashes there. As simple as that. Don't overdo stuff. Again, remember about simplicity. Next step is the nose. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're big, pointy, squared. Decide which type of nose you have. I usually put a long and pointy one, this here. Yeah, should be simple. Just keep it simple. The next step is your mouth. And it's even simpler than that. Just put a smiley. Let's agree we want to be positive today. And always, hopefully. Next step is brows. Well, it could be a bit trickier, you know, shorter, longer. And in my case, it's almost one brow. Drawing is also about honesty. Okay, number 6. Ears. Yeah, you could have variation here. Small, big, squared, elf ears, or troll ears. I mean, whatever you prefer, whatever you believe represents your unique identity. And remember to put ears on the line that is the same as the eyes line. So something here, like that. All right, now the complex step. The hairstyle, but I'll help you out. I cheat a lot because I specifically prefer a hairstyle which is easy to draw for myself, but I'll help you out. So if you have long hair, you could go something like that. Just cheat it. Represent the overall shape of it. There is no need to be super precise. If you have a hairstyle like that, or maybe a curly, but you get the idea. Use the simple approach to that. And if you have mustaches, it also counts as hairstyle, so beards, don't forget about those. Or in my case, it could be just a constellation of dots representing a poor shaving technique. So yeah, I'll go along and just do mine while you are finishing off your hairstyle. I'd do something like that. And my sideburns that represent my identity. All right, but then the last step is accessories, especially the ones that are critical for your unique image. I'm talking about things like glasses, and remember that the shape of glasses matters, because people recognize you also by the shape of the glasses. It could be recognizable jewelry, tunnels in ears if you have any, tattoo on the face, or whatever is unique to your image. I've seen people with tattoos on faces, and no disrespect to that. So that's it. Just finish off what is you. And as I promised you, that would be simple. I hope it was also fun for those who followed along. And just show whatever you have, and just show it to each other if you feel like. Okay, yeah, I sense some reluctance in here. It's also fair. But no matter what, I hope that you agree that it wasn't that bad. And the result probably looks okay for you to share on Twitter or Instagram. By the way, please do so if you want. I would love to see what turned out from those drawings on the Twitter. But the point being here is that drawing a human being or a face is one of the toughest drawing assignments. And if you were able to do that, regardless of what you think about your drawing skills, the rest is much easier. That was the toughest drawing assignment. And I'm going to take you through cases to demonstrate just that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. When we think about visual thinking, the most important hurdle to overcome is the fear of drawing. And what I see in people that think about the visual thinking, think, okay, I've seen people doing that, and it's fun, but well, I cannot draw. And then let's say this VT stands for the visual thinking as the destination, and they see a wall between them and the goal of getting there. And that wall is called artistic drawing. I was bad drawing in school. I just dropped drawing after I was 10-year-old. We can commonly hear that. But right now, I cannot draw, then I cannot practice this. What I suggest is that we change the perspective. Let's not focus on becoming artists. It's not necessary. We can walk around the wall by just drawing simpler, right? Like the drawings I'm using, and I'm not an artist. And the following cases, I'm just going to use them to convince you about that. All right. Okay, I totally screwed up my slides, but that's okay. A plan B is a new paper. Okay, so yes, it is this simple. We just drew faces, and the rest of the icons used for the effective visual thinking are even simpler than that. So let's say, I'm sure you can draw something looking like a pack of milk, basically a rectangle. I'm sure you can draw a truck. I'm sure you can draw a U-man, which is a combination of a dash and an upside down U. It's simple. I'm sure you can convey very simple emotions like that. And I also assume that all of the people in the room can write. And even if you're not happy with your handwriting, there is a small trick. Just slow down and use all capital letters like this. And suddenly it's an okay handwriting. I've been there, I know. So let's look into a case of complex presentations with lots of layers of complexity conveyed in simplistic drawings. And product managers, UX and UI designers, customer experience specialists are using this technique, so-called storyboards, to convey very complex context. And it's okay to also draw along, but you could just watch me doing that. And let's say I'm a product manager of a product, a mobile application called Milkify. And I'm going to sell you now this idea so you could invest into the product. And you're like, what is Milkify? Oh, let me tell you how it works. So let's imagine you are that poor guy in the morning, finding out that there is no milk anymore, but you need that desperately for your coffee, for your breakfast. Like, oh no, no milk, right? But what makes it even worse is that that poor guy, me probably, looks at his wristwatch, like, okay, but I have no time to go shopping now. I'm in a hurry. I have other things that are more important than milk. But don't be worried. Hey, I just remembered there is an app called Milkify. It can help me. And that app called Milkify is as simple as finding a pack of milk, adjust the needed quantity, and click on the order button. Just one click function. And if you do that, there is a truck full of milk hurrying your way to your destination, right? And then a guy, a very pleasant guy with good manners, gives you exactly the quantity of milk you wanted, and you're so happy. Yay! That's going to be a door. Yeah. Yeah? I'm glad you like it, but really, it's down to simple icons, simple emotions, sticky, well, maybe a bit more complex than just a human, but you get the idea. It's the message which is important here, not your drawing skills. You can do that. Let's move on to the next case. Unwinding organizational complexity. And let's imagine you are that stressed person assigned to the new team. It might be a new job or just being reassigned to a different product or project team. And you're stressed and you don't feel confident because there are so many terms, so many new names, you just don't know where to apply yourself. What should be your first step? And visual thinking can help you out just to slow down on the anxiety by just bringing more clarity into the situation. And what you could do, you could start with drawing the universe, the new universe you're finding yourself in. So my new team. What do I know about my new team? Well, there is John. He's a product owner. And from earlier days of the conference, we know that that's probably a wrong term, but people are still using that. I hope you're fine with me doing that now. There is Sam, a team lead. There is Ray, a developer. And there is Sally, a BA. That's pretty much my new team. What I also know is the team is working on a product, which is about some kind of a document management. And I'm going to be there. Let's say I'm going to be a developer on that team. I also know that there are some two names commonly used. I haven't manned them. One is Jack, and another person is Jill, and they're working in the marketing. And these guys are primary contacts in that department who are both users of the app, but they also provide the valuable feedback. And then you know that there is a team somewhere called Team Z or something like that. And all you know for now is that there are some dependencies to those guys. You also know that John is handling a backlog for the product in a nice way, and that the marketing department is the main stakeholder for that. It's simple to do that, but what it gives you a good warm feeling of you are in control of the complexity. You might not know all the people, you probably didn't meet all of them, but by drawing something like that, you get a map of complexity that allows you to decide what you should focus on. And it's valuable in itself, but it could also serve as a map where you could add additional layers of the context, which might be important for your situation. What you could do with such a map or a similar one, you could also depict where geographically those people are located. So it might turn out that Team Z is in Vilnius, for example, and you are in Copenhagen, and I don't know, Jack and Jill are maybe in Malmö. Could also be the case. You could add an additional layer of information about, for example, their attitude or opinion about the product. You could use icons of emotions to, for example, map Jack and Jill's attitude to the product. For example, Jack loves the product, but Jill is not happy. That's what you heard, and that gives you some kind of an ability to choose, Do you want to talk to Jill next week and learn more about that, or it's not important now? You could also do some sort of a quantitative analysis of the situation. For example, you want to learn more about this product, and you want to mark up who could help you with this, and you could use the technique of, let's say, 1 to 3 stars, where 3 stars is as a person who is an expert in something, and 1 star is for a noob like you. You just joined the team, and it turns out that Sam, the team lead, he joined the team just 2 months ago, so he doesn't know the system. Ray is an okay, but Sally is a true expert. She knows all ins and outs. And Jack is an okay, but Jill is an expert too. And that can give you some good insights into, for example, talking to Jill, because the team is super busy at the moment. She has the same knowledge, but you could also ask her about her bad opinions about the system in the same conversation. You get the idea. You have millions of possibilities, but it's just to show you it's simple to use drawings, and you could do complex analysis with them if you don't do that yet. And then finally, on to my last case I want to share with you in this talk is the complexity of planning and alignment. And you've been working on the team from the previous example for some time. And then people say, okay, it's time to discuss the next release. And it just happens to be that you attended my workshop and you know how to draw, and you're so pumped up you want to show them how it's done properly. So you say, hey, I will facilitate it this time. Can I? Well, John, you remember, he's a product owner. He says, well, I don't mind. Go for it. So what happens in that meeting? You draw a timeline. And you say, we choose the unit of time to be a week on that timeline. And we are here, the 8th of November. This is the Friday in this week. You also look up the calendar and you count the number of weeks, and it turns out that November ends somewhere here, and then December continues for 4 weeks and ends a week after. And you say, okay, guys, when exactly do you want to release the next time? And, yeah, okay, this is now. But it's also in November. I was going to write in November, but then I made a mistake. All right, and Jack from the marketing, he says, we want to go live 16th of December. You find it, it's the 3rd week in December. You use your calendar, of course, because you do not guess these things. But you say, hold on a minute. But it's the Christmas time here, right? So I'm not saying anything, but we just need to keep that in mind. That's the end of the year, the Christmas, the holidays. People are going to be on vacations. Not saying anything, but we need to keep that in mind. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And I didn't realize that we go on vacation just a week after. We don't know how to use this information, but it's good that you brought it up. Okay, so we want to release here. And then John, our product owner, says, okay, fine. Let's look into what's cooking on our backlog. So we have a feature number 1, it's being developed. And we have 2 more lined up. And we haven't even started looking into those. And we have 2-week sprints. And we are here on this Friday because that's when the current sprint ended. Let's also draw those sprints, I say, because I think we could find some additional insights from just depicting that. And we say, okay, this is the next sprint, and then another one, and then another one, and so on. And then you say, hold on a minute, but we actually only have 2 full sprints before the release date. What does it tell us? The team says, well, it means that we would probably be able to finish this feature in the next sprint, but leaves us a bit vulnerable in this period. We don't know if we even could commit to the other ones. And then Jack and Jill, they scratch their heads and say, well, okay, it doesn't sound like a certainty to us. What if we do this? What if we meet for some kind of a catch-up in 2 weeks from now, so we could reevaluate what goes into the release, or we even consider postponing it because we're not happy with the amount of functionality released. And he said, that's a good idea. Let's just capture that as the action item number 1 from our meeting. And already you produced value in that conversation. And then what you could also do is that the conversation could then fall into discussing the details of the 3rd sprint where the release is. And it could turn out that they want to discuss it in more detail, but there is no space on the whiteboard. But you're smart. You attended Yuri's workshop, so you know how to do about it. And you create an expanded timeline, explaining that we use this part of the timeline to bring more details about that particular sprint. And you could use a different unit scale, and you say it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. And then you could go wild. You could capture stuff like, okay, we want to send a newsletter to all the users strictly at least a week before the release itself, and you could just continue capturing all the stuff which is necessary. You brought a lot of value to that team because you captured all the intricacies of information and you helped keep the conversation neutral and constructive, and everyone was happy. So, of course, it's a bit trickier in reality than that, but you get the idea. And then, finally, well, what happens next? I hope that you are inspired to love visual thinking the way I do. But then what happens next? Well, first of all, if you are inspired, I encourage you to do something about it. So just learn how visual thinking works. Start practicing, take notes visually. And it's only a matter of a will and a practice. So learn visual thinking. No brainer. That's your step number 1. Oh, thinking, yes. But what about the technology? You are highly skilled people, and I was thinking about what you could contribute to visual thinking. There is one challenge. Visual thinking is super effective when you are in the same room with other people because you could draw on the whiteboard. And of course, you could say, well, there are virtual whiteboards, but it's not the same experience. So I'm just imploring you, can you look into the development of the technologies and see how we could enable a better visual thinking experience with use of them? I'm talking about artificial intelligence. I'm talking about virtual visioning, things like that. I'm sure there is a lot in those, and we could bring it to the next level together. So think about that. What could you do to make it a better experience going forward with the use of technology? And finally, my big thank you for your patience and interest to this topic. Once again, you're awesome people. I thank you for being with me. This is my yay thank you to everyone in this room.